Like, how do we get over that? Because not all members of the Muslim community are pedophile rapists. Not every single member of the Muslim community are potentially doing the things that we are being shown, i.e. the evil things. There are far better and good Muslims that just want to get on and living their lives, being with their families, and just carry on being British. So when my fear is, like, for me, that's nothing that, like, even I'm rallied for that, even though he may not be speaking to my genetic cause. I'm rallied with that because I personally believe that the British Constitution, the British common law, is one of, if not the greatest bit of literature available to mankind, in my opinion. But on the other hand, as I'm recently becoming increasingly aware that we don't need to ostracize certain members of the Muslim community. So, what was your thought process of that speech? And it was a very powerful speech. And how do we get over this obstacle? Because you are yourself a member of a Muslim family and a Muslim background. So, give us your opinion. It'd be very insightful.
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, I will say this. Now, Michael's, is it Michael Stedler? Damn, the chap who wrote that speech, which Tommy delivered. He is a member of a group called Identity Europa, which their flags were, by the way, flying in London last Sunday. Now, I predicted these types of groups appearing at least 15 years ago. I said it, and not on YouTube. I should have documented it properly on YouTube. It would have been better. It would have been much more evidential. But I actually said it in these chat programs that I use, and the people of those chat programs are now the Muslims who fervently argued with me. No such thing will never happen in Europe. I said it's going to happen. Europe is going to go right wing if you Muslims don't quit fucking around and bombing and terrorizing the people of Europe. You think Europeans and the Americans are weak because they're tolerant. Don't mistake their tolerance for weakness. And this is the biggest mistake that Muslims make. The Muslims think the Westerners are weak because they are tolerant people, because they are people who allow others to live along with them and to get along, and to, they welcome foreigners quite often with open arms, and they used to, certainly. But that was, 10, 15, 20 years ago. There was, no problem. Immigration wasn't even considered to be a bad thing. You go back to the 90s, go back to the 80s, nobody really was worried about immigration. In fact, in some cases, they were absolutely welcomed. We needed doctors and nurses and teachers. So this is number one. This number one is, I predicted this is going to happen because Muslims were pressing the buttons of the Europeans. They were pushing them. There are Muslims right now. I literally have it on live streams. Woman, this crazy Muslim woman rose talking about, oh, I would welcome living under Sharia. You have no fucking idea what you're talking about. It's these kind of things that infuriate someone like me because they have no idea what they're talking about. These people are privileged, fat, well maintained, well fed, and well housed individuals who think life would be just peachy under Sharia, and yet they've never lived a day under Sharia. And if they actually do live a day under Sharia, they'll be running back to their Western country quicker than you can say, what the fuck happened. So this is the problem. We have a lot of people who are deluded, who are delusional, who haven't actually lived under real suffering, and they are making a lot of noise about how great Islam is and how great life under Sharia would be, because they've never actually had to live under Sharia, or even if they did, their parents took them and ran away from it. So this is the conflict that we have in Europe, is that I think Muslims, yeah. Another thing you said, Manny, in regards to vast majority of Muslims are peaceful. This is something I want to say. Anyone out there who ever has any argument about any demographic of anything, the demographic of cows, the demographic of lions, not all of any demographic does anything. You will always find outliers and exceptions in any group ever. To say not all is a terrible argument The worst argument you can possibly make about anything. Not all of anything does anything exactly the same. So to talk about Muslims and say not all is a terrible argument. Yes, there are not all. There are Muslims who support Brexit. There are Muslims who see the same problems as you and I see when it comes to immigration. When it comes to immigration from their own countries, I am a person from a Muslim country, Iran, who would not like Iranian migration right now. Right now, I would halt migrations on Iranians because we are not getting the best of the creme de la creme of Iranians coming in. We're getting the fucking idiots who are mindless barbarians who have no idea how to behave in a society. I mean, I hear a lot of good things about Iranians when I talk to other people. They're like, oh, I have an Iranian friend in my corporation. He's a great guy. Yes, yes, that Iranian was a good one. But I can show you another 10 who are fucking assholes, who are morons, who have no respect for women, who behave like animals. You just haven't seen that group. That's all it is. You haven't come across that group because Iranians are a minority of a minority. But I can show you the assholes too. And there are plenty of them in every group, in every demographic. So, no, not all of any group is great and not all of any group is terrible. There will be a mixture of good and bad in all. My issue with the Muslim world and the Muslim community in Britain is if you hear this at any point in your life, please recognize that if you consider yourself the majority that are good, that are wholesome, that are trying to get on with your life, you are not isolated. You're not a man on an island. You are part of a Muslim community. If you say you are Muslim to the question, are you a Muslim? If you answer yes, then you are part of that wider community. And when you hear about rapists and groomers, it is on you too. It sits on your shoulder. Don't shrug it and go, well, I'm not one of those guys, so fuck it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. No, it does. It affects you too. You are part of that demographic. The responsibility of you going out and showing the world and the country you live in that these people don't represent you is on you too. You should be marching in the streets. You should be outraged. You should be as pissed off about a grooming gang of Muslims as you are about someone swearing against your prophet and your Allah. How is it that someone like Salman Rushdie can write a book and you lose your shit and you're marching down London streets and burning flags when someone writes the satanic verses, and yet you hear about people who are grooming white and non-Muslim children, and I don't hear a fucking peep from you people. You do recognize that people see this hypocrisy, right? People are not blind to the hypocrisy of how you behave towards someone writing a book versus or a cartoon or versus you guys knowing that you have groomers in your society, in your communities, and you don't do a fucking thing about it. I want every Muslim to lose their shit about grooming gangs as they do about the satanic verses and about Charlie Hebdo. That's what I want to see. And we don't see that. We see the hypocrisy in your community. This is not gone unseen. This has not gone unnoticed. And those who see it, those who witness it, are going to distrust you in the future. Okay? They are not going to be your friends, and groups like Identity Europa and the Golden Dawn and every other right winging crazy nut job is going to gain support the next time round elections come because they don't see from Muslims. The Muslims are not outraged about the right things. You're outraged about the wrong things. You're outraged about Charlie Hebdo and you're not outraged about child groomers. You've got it the wrong way round. Switch your priorities. Who gives a shit what someone says about Prophet Muhammad or Allah? But people do care about letting your community rape their children. Believe me, that really does matter to them. So just get your priorities right. The Muslim community, the Muslim society in Britain does not have its priorities right. It's clear, it's evidential to anyone outside of that society. People can see this. March against groomers, march against terrorists, lose your shit, burn a couple of flags when somebody tries to stab police officers in London or run people down over bridges. How is it no flags are ever burnt when that happens, but yet the British and the American flag is literally doused with petrol ready to be burnt on a 24-hour basis Every time America sets a foot wrong or some Charlie Hebdo draws a cartoon of Muhammad, you guys are ready to fucking tear the city down for a cartoon, and yet you don't say a fucking word when people are being murdered by those who claim they come from your faith in the streets of London. There is a hypocrisy here. There is an inconsistency here that the world has noticed. Trust me, we have noticed this. We have seen it. We know what you're about, and we don't trust you anymore. The word taqiyya has become a very common word amongst non-Muslims because we know what you do, we know what you're saying, and we don't trust you anymore. And we don't believe it when you say not all of us support this anymore. That's what's happening. And that is a dangerous thing, by the way, for the Muslims in the Western world, that we no longer believe it when you say we don't, we are not all terrorists. People